The courtroom fell silent the moment the judge opened his mouth. No one expected what came next, new corruption charges, directly aimed at Wendy Osefo. Her face froze. Cameras flashed. Her lawyers whispered in panic. For months, people thought Wendy's case was wrapping up, that the worst was over. But these new documents? They tell a story darker than anyone imagined. Hidden accounts, misused funds, secret meetings with names no one dares to say out loud. And when the judge said the words, "new evidence submitted," Wendy's eyes filled with tears. Because this time, the truth might finally destroy everything she built. When Wendy Osefo walked into court that morning, she looked like a woman trying to hold her world together with shaking hands. Her hair was tied back, her voice low, her eyes fixed on the ground, but everyone could tell something was off. Reporters whispered that she hadn't slept in days. Even her husband, Edward, avoided eye contact as they sat side by side. The cameras clicked, the crowd murmured, and the tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. The judge's voice broke the silence. "We have received new documentation regarding undisclosed financial activity," he said, his tone heavy. Wendy blinked slowly, pretending not to understand. But deep down, she knew exactly what he was referring to. Her hands clenched under the table. The prosecutor stood, holding a thin folder. Inside, pages that could end everything. These transactions, the prosecutor began, show over $150,000 moved through offshore accounts, routed back to personal holdings under Mrs. Osefo's name. Gasps filled the courtroom. Wendy's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. A few rows back, someone whispered, "They finally caught her." Wendy turned to her husband, eyes pleading. "You told me they deleted those records," she muttered through clenched teeth. Edward didn't answer. He just stared straight ahead, jaw tight, as if hoping silence would erase the weight of the accusation. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Osefo, were you aware of these transactions?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. The tension cracked like thunder. For years, Wendy built her image as a woman of integrity, a professor, a commentator, a wife who stood above the chaos. But now, every eye in that room saw her differently. Fans outside the courthouse were already reacting. "She's lying," one supporter shouted to the news cameras. "They're setting her up." Another voice cut through. No, she knew exactly what she was doing. Social media was exploding before the hearing even ended, screenshots of old interviews resurfacing, quotes where she bragged about transparency and honesty. Inside the courtroom, the prosecutor continued. "Not only were these funds transferred without disclosure, but we have new evidence suggesting that the source was connected to an ongoing real estate scheme. Funds meant for community housing projects, redirected into luxury accounts." Wendy's breath caught. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the rest. The words "luxury accounts" echoed in her mind. She could see her own signature at the bottom of the transfer slips, something she never thought would see daylight again. Her attorney leaned in, whispering, "Stay calm. We'll handle this. Don't react." But it was too late. Tears welled in her eyes as she glanced at Edward again. "You told me we were safe," she whispered, voice trembling. His response was cold, detached. "I told you to stop when you had the chance." That moment hit harder than any accusation. It wasn't just a case now, it was betrayal. An insider source later told reporters that these new documents came from a former associate of Wendy's, someone who once handled her financial files and had recently turned over encrypted emails to investigators. Those emails hinted at late-night messages between Wendy and unnamed investors, discussing how to delay audits and restructure deposits. The courtroom began to buzz again as journalists scrambled to capture every detail. The judge finally ordered order in the room, but the whispers didn't stop. People wanted to know who leaked those files, and what else was hiding behind the polished image Wendy spent years building. Her hands shook as the clerk read out the next line of evidence, a transaction memo signed W. Osefo, dated just weeks before the original arrest. That was it. The illusion shattered. The tension broke. Even the camera crews went silent, realizing this was more than gossip. It was a scandal reaching its boiling point. As the court adjourned for recess, Wendy stood, unable to move for a moment. The air around her felt heavier. Her lawyer touched her arm gently, but she pulled away, whispering, "They weren't supposed to find that. It was buried." He sighed, "Nothing stays buried forever, Wendy." And as she walked out of that courtroom, surrounded by flashing lights and questions she couldn't answer, one thing became clear: this was no longer about reputation. It was survival. The next morning, the world woke up to chaos. Wendy Osefo's name wasn't just trending, it was everywhere. Professor exposed. Fraud files leaked. The fall of Wendy Osefo. Overnight, her polished image had turned into a scandal headline. News outlets ran the same clip again and again, the moment the prosecutor revealed the offshore transfers. But what really sent the internet into overdrive wasn't the courtroom footage. It was what came after. A new account appeared online, anonymous, faceless, claiming to have the real receipts. The username? @Truth Inside the Court. The first post read, "Wendy's not telling you everything. Check the emails." Attached were screenshots, messages allegedly between Wendy and a man named Carter, who investigators believed was the broker behind the fake housing contracts. The DMs were short but cold. "Carter, transfer completed. Your husband's name is off the books. You're clear. Wendy, make sure no one can trace it back. I'll handle the board." Fans lost it. Some refused to believe it was real. Others started digging. Within hours, side-by-side comparisons of Wendy's writing style and the leaked texts went viral. "She writes the same way," one TikTok user said in a teary-eyed rant. "The periods, the tone, it's her." But the most disturbing message wasn't between Wendy and Carter. It was between Wendy and her husband. "Wendy, if they ask, tell them you didn't know about the secondary account. Edward, you said this was temporary. You promised. Wendy, it was. Until the money disappeared." That single line, "until the money disappeared," set the internet on fire. Everyone wanted to know, where did it go? Who took it? An insider from the production team of The Real Housewives of Potomac leaked that Wendy had been arguing with producers weeks before the scandal broke. She'd allegedly accused them of protecting certain cast members who were spreading rumors about her business dealings. But the producers refused to comment. Then came the audio clip. A 47-second voice note surfaced, allegedly Wendy's voice, trembling and furious. "They promised me those files were gone. They told me it was handled. Now they're turning on me like I'm the only one who touched that account." The clip cut off mid-sentence, but it was enough. Viewers played it on loop, analyzing every breath, every pause. Suddenly, people began questioning who they really were. Some pointed at Carter. Others hinted at Edward, her husband, claiming he'd been secretly cooperating with investigators after discovering she'd forged his digital signature. And then the twist hit. Court reporters confirmed that Edward had been subpoenaed, not as a witness, but as a potential co-conspirator. The man sitting beside her in court might have been the one feeding prosecutors the evidence. That revelation broke Wendy completely. In a leaked phone call to her friend, one that spread across every gossip site in less than an hour, Wendy sobbed, "He sold me out. He gave them the files, all of them. He said it was for protection, but he just wanted to save himself." Her voice cracked into silence before hanging up. The betrayal hit harder than the case itself. Social media turned into a war zone, some calling her manipulative, others calling Edward a coward. "He married her when she was a nobody," one post read. "And now he's letting her burn alone." By the time Wendy appeared for her second hearing, she was a different person. The confidence was gone. Her face was pale, eyes hollow. She didn't even glance at Edward. The only sound in the courtroom was the click of reporters' cameras. The prosecutor presented a new piece of evidence, a printed email from Wendy to Carter. The subject line read, "Final transfer, delete after read." As the words echoed through the courtroom, Wendy's face froze. You could see the fear in her eyes, not just of prison, but of the truth that was no longer hers to control. Outside, fans gathered, holding signs that read, "Free Wendy" and "Justice for the truth." But no one knew what the truth actually was anymore. Because now, even the investigators were hinting at a larger cover-up, names redacted in documents, transactions that didn't belong to Wendy at all. Someone else had been moving money under her identity. And as one reporter whispered into her mic before the feed cut to black, if that's true, then Wendy Osefo might not be the only one guilty. The courtroom doors closed, and silence followed. But for the first time since the case began, Wendy looked up, not defeated, but dangerous. Something in her eyes said this story wasn't over. The third hearing was supposed to be routine, just a procedural update before the next trial date. But when Wendy Osefo walked into that courtroom, the air shifted. Gone was the anxious, defensive woman from the week before. She moved differently now, calm, deliberate, like someone who had already decided what came next. Whispers filled the room when the judge announced there was new evidence, not from the prosecution, but from Wendy's own defense team. Everyone leaned forward. Cameras clicked. And then her lawyer stood, holding up a flash drive sealed in an evidence bag. This, he said, was sent anonymously to our office last night. It contains audio recordings that suggest my client may not have been the one orchestrating the transfers. The courtroom froze. The judge allowed the file to be played. The first voice on the tape was deep, male, confident. "She thinks she's in control," the voice said. "As long as her name's on the account, the rest of us stay clean." Then a second voice, unmistakably Edward's. "And if she finds out?" "She won't," the first man replied coldly. "Because by the time she does, she'll be the one they're charging." Wendy's eyes closed. A single tear slipped down her cheek. The clip ended and the courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, even shouts from the gallery. The judge called for order, but it was too late. The entire narrative had flipped in a matter of seconds. The prosecution demanded verification, but the tone, cadence, even the background noise matched previous recordings of Edward and the broker, Carter. Suddenly, the woman everyone had painted as the villain started to look like the scapegoat. Reporters outside scrambled to update their headlines. New audio leaked, Wendy framed? Edward Osefo caught in secret dealings? Social media ignited with hashtags. Hashtag Free Wendy, hashtag Edward Exposed, hashtag Carter Tapes. But the damage had already been done. That night, Wendy released a short written statement from her holding cell. "I kept quiet to protect my family. I took the blame because I believed the truth would destroy the people I loved. But the truth is already destroying me, and now the world deserves to hear it." Within hours, the final piece fell into place. Investigators confirmed that Carter had fled the country 3 days before the first hearing. The offshore account, the one Wendy had been accused of managing, had received not one, but 7 separate deposits, each linked to companies owned by Edward's associates. The betrayal was complete. Insiders later revealed that Edward had turned Wendy in first, not to cooperate, but to strike a deal that kept his own assets safe. He'd painted her as the mastermind, hoping she'd crumble under pressure before the deeper connections were uncovered. But she didn't crumble. She waited. And when she finally spoke in court again, her voice was steady. "They wanted me to be the villain," she said quietly. "They needed someone the cameras could hate. But villains don't cry themselves to sleep wondering why their husband would sell them for a deal." Even the judge sat silent. By the end of the hearing, the entire case had turned inside out. Wendy's charges were temporarily suspended pending new investigation. Edward was escorted out in handcuffs, no cameras allowed this time. Outside, as she was led back into the transport van, someone in the crowd shouted, "We believe you, Wendy." She didn't smile. She just looked up at the gray sky and whispered something no one could hear, maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. But the haunting part wasn't what she said. It was what came next. 2 days later, the anonymous account at Truth Inside the Court posted one final message: "Don't think it's over." Wendy wasn't the only one betrayed. Attached was a short video, a blurred figure speaking through a voice changer. "She thinks she's free, but she still doesn't know who sent me the tapes." And then the feed cut out. Silence. Darkness. The story that began as a corruption case had turned into something far more sinister, a web of lies stretching far beyond Wendy, Edward, or Carter. And as the credits of public opinion shifted once again, one chilling question lingered. If Wendy wasn't the mastermind, then who was?
She thought her nightmare was finally over, but that anonymous video changed everything. The tapes cleared her name, yes, but they also opened a darker door. Someone out there had the power to expose everything, and they chose her moment to strike. Was it revenge? Or something much bigger than Wendy ever imagined? The truth is, we've only seen the surface. The next file rumored to exist, the one the courts haven't released, might reveal who really orchestrated this entire scandal from the shadows. If you think Edward's arrest ended this story, think again. Because in the next video, the real puppet master finally steps into the light, and trust me, it's someone no one saw coming. If you want to hear the leaked final recording, the one that could destroy a reputation forever, comment below for the next part.